Hey kids, welcome to Movie Club Monday, where we pick the movies that all of us? Well, each of us are picking movies and we're all watching the same movie every week, sometimes torturously and sometimes like this week, a joy to behold. Okay, I'm Frank Gaffney. Here with me is Amy Goldman. And the scene from our movie for today, Joel Fenster, who has not only the DVD of Airplane, but of 0 Hour exclamation point as well. Mark Wotis-Gartner, who is actually Nipsey McBreasted. What is it?
Nipsey McBreasted.
He can't even remember that.
Breasticus. Yeah, I forget so many.
For this week, just for a week, right?
Oh yeah, I'm going back to the old Mark on Monday.
And Annie King, who's about to go on spring break, so next week she'll be somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can actually make it next week, but
Oh, all right. So we're going to be rotating guests. Nobody volunteered to do this movie. I don't understand why.
Weird.
And today's movie is one that I hadn't covered on the original Franken list, as Joel calls it. And I've watched over 300 movies, and it wasn't on my list. Well, it was, but later on. And when I asked for votes this time to update it to 2021. This one came in at number 96. So it's in the top 100 of all the movies. And I had never even watched it before. Well, for the Franken list. So, Aim, why Airplane?
Well, the movies that I've picked, and this is the first one that is being appearing.
Viewed.
What?
Viewed.
Viewed, sure. What, Annie?
featured.
Featured, that's what I was looking for. Are movies that had some kind of an effect on me. So most of them are pre-1985, really. I was
When you were more impressionable.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely the reason. This movie came out, I looked it up, a week after I turned 14. And I guess I don't remember my reaction to it. Hi, honey. I don't remember my reaction to it now, but I assume my reaction was fabulous. And I'm sure I saw it in the theater, maybe even once or twice with Annie at Fresh Meadows. Something about this movie, I think it was just perfect for a 13/14-year-old kid. I'm sure I didn't get a lot of the jokes, but on the 100th viewing, I got them all, except there was still 2 that I heard last night watching it that I was like, oh my God, I never heard that joke. Amazing. So it's just one of those movies that stuck with me and I loved. And upon viewing last night, well, when it's my turn to actually discuss it, you'll see how I felt about it now versus when I was 14.
All right, and what is going on in the picture behind you right now?
Well, we have Lloyd Bridges, who last night while watching the movie, I was like, this man deserves an Oscar. He was so good in the movie.
Perfect.
He was so perfect. Robert Stack was so perfect. Him, Robert Stack, Leslie Nielsen, and Peter Graves were so good. They were brilliant. And one of the million things I read in the trivia was that they were told, a couple of them didn't even want to do the movie. They thought it was stupid. They were convinced to. They were serious actors. And that was what was so brilliant, was they played it so seriously, like it was Airport 77. They were so serious.
Well,
and
Airport
not playing
80.
it. Right. And not playing it as a joke like Robert Hayes did and Julie Haggerty did, as serious as they were. They were not like the 4 of them. It just made him that much more perfect. And him just constantly with the cigarette and the sound of the typewriter and the phone ringing like you're in a newsroom. Every time you saw him, to me, was just brilliant. It was hilarious. There were many moments last night where it was very funny and I was like this, because it was no longer funny to me, because every moment I said, okay, now he's going to say this, she's going to say that, hitting the head, the heads with the guitars. There were so many moments where it was so over the top stupid. It wasn't even funny at all, but it's made up for with the brilliance of the little things like the typewriter and the telephone. Just so good.
And what is the gay guy saying?
There's a sale at Penny's. I think am I correct? What?
Important news.
Yeah, important news. Joel, am I correct? Did I read in the trivia that his lines were all ad-libbed by him?
Yeah, they, they basically gave him whatever line was right before they wanted him to speak. And everything he says in that movie he wrote it himself, and came on with it. And part of it was apparently done on the off chance the studio executives felt that he was too much for the movie, they could just cut it all out.
Right.
And
He wasn't
they-
intricate to the plot. Yeah.
Right, but he's hysterical.
Yeah.
Steven
Yes,
Stucker
sir.
was absolutely hysterical in this movie.
So hysterical. And Jimmy Robertson would constantly, for the whole 4 years I worked with him at the bagel store, go, and Leon's getting larger. That was like his line. And also for years and years and years after this movie, I would always unplug something, go, just kidding.
The influence is there. The first time I saw it was actually the weekend before it opened, because back in the day, the studios would do previews and attach it to one of their movies that was about to head out of the theaters, and to generate word of mouth. So I went to see Urban Cowboy, and Airplane was the second feature, and I thought, well, if it sucks, we could just leave. We only came to see Urban Cowboy, and so we didn't leave, obviously. But so here, just a little bit about the movie then. It's a parody of the disaster film genre, particularly the 1957 Paramount movie 0 Hour! From which it borrows its plot, central characters, and certainly a lot of the lines. And obviously draws on Airport 75 and other films of that ilk. And but it's exactly that, the surreal humor, the fast-paced slapstickal comedy, the verbal and visual puns, gags, running jokes, all of it was like they just put it all in a blender, and whatever came out came out. And this is the best example of why you need to go to a movie theater to watch a movie, because sitting in that audience, the audience was hysterical. And it just made it funnier. It really did. It was the kind of thing where it was just infectious. Everything that was so silly. And I totally remember crying. I was laughing so much. And you couldn't hear the next line. There were so many times where you were like, what did he say? I don't know. Didn't
And
hear.
they had so many brilliant lines that I don't know of that had been thought of before. And the very first one in the movie where I'm thinking of is headquarters. What is it? Well, it's a big building where all the generals are, but that's not important now. And that became a
Over
running gag.
and
Was
over,
not
yeah.
ever even said before. That's brilliant to me. That's just brilliant.
Nobody ever made that joke before?
I did, Joel.
Not in a movie, not that I'm aware of. I'm sure somebody said it on the street somewhere to somebody, but
Can't
Yeah.
even imagine anybody was that clever. Or the one that Frank and I to this day still say the stupid joke. It's a totally different kind of thing altogether.
It's a totally
different
different kind of thing.
Kind of thing.
I mean, come on, brilliant. And I
Um,
remember the infectious laughter. I remember seeing it in the theater, and the plane would go into the WZAZ, of course, WZAZ, playing all disco all the time. The plane crashes into it. It goes out. People in the audience, because it was 1980, applauded every time I saw it.
Right. So this was written and directed by David and Jerry Zucker and Jim Abrams, who had started. The first movie was Kentucky Fried
Kentucky
Movie,
Fried Movie.
which is kind of a little bit, right? It was like sketches, right, Joel?
yeah, I mean, they had actually started in theater. They had a group called the Kentucky Fried Theater, and they wound up making the Kentucky Fried Movie. And this actually would have been something of a thematic sequel to it, in that the Kentucky Fried Movie is just kind of like a whole bunch of ads and stuff, parody ads around a movie that you're watching late at night while you're changing the channel. In that case, the movie was a fistful of yen,
Yeah.
sending up the whole martial arts genre. In this case, it was going to be a parody of 0 Hour, essentially.
Oh, so this was going to be like Kentucky Fried Movie 2?
Yes, but it was, in fact, originally the original title was Kentucky Fried Airplane, and eventually they dropped the whole concept of the ads and said, we've got plenty of material just to do a movie on this, and there you had it. So
Works. Yeah.
Well, and certainly watching it this week for the umpteenth time for me too, And for me, it is a remote dropper for sure. If it's on TV, I definitely will just sit there. And I was smiling the entire time, even now. And it is juvenile and it is silly, but the thing that's so great about it is that it embraces that wholeheartedly. It's not apologizing for it. It's saying, yes, we know we're yeah, and it is truly a great classic comedy. So and of course now, 40 years later, Airplane, there are certainly a lot of politically incorrect jokes and raunchy theatrics. Mark, I certainly thought of you as the boobs went across the screen. But that's also what makes it right. I mean, it's so important to keep pushing the boundaries and trying new things and but they do it in such a good-natured way that it's not really offensive, whereas like in some Mel Brooks instances, it's a little mean-spirited and that makes it inappropriate now. But here I just felt like it was so good-natured, they really weren't insulting anybody.
Yeah, I don't think that, we talk about the concept of punching up and punching down in comedy. I don't think there's any punch downs in this movie, really. There's some things that are dated that don't kind of work as well as they did. But as you said, some of the Mel Brooks jokes from, earlier, Blazing Saddles, do punch down a little bit, and
Yeah.
they're more mean spirited at this point. So.
They punched a horse.
Well, here they slept with a horse, so it's loving a horse, hating a horse kind of thing. So,
But also talk about dated, and I wonder if anybody who would watch the movie today who's younger than 40, and I assume Mark, you got it, but he never has a second cup of coffee at home.
Yeah.
Now, we all remember that commercial, was
Right.
it Folgers or whatever?
Yeah,
And the
Folgers.
husband would have a second cup of coffee in the restaurant because it was a better coffee, and he never vomits at home.
I was wondering what that was a throwback to. I didn't quite get it. I knew it was something silly. I thought she
Yeah.
thought he was
Yeah.
cheating on her, but I don't
No.
remember the
It
commercial.
was a coffee commercial.
but
Yeah.
I think even without that reference, it still works as a funny bit.
Yeah.
Whereas something like
because they follow it up with the he never vomits at home.
right,
Yeah.
But it's even funnier if you know the reference.
right,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
Totally get it.
exactly.
like
Exactly.
the reference to the Anita Bryant concert, I think is going to be lost on just about anybody who's not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely references that date it for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And so, of course, it led to them doing their TV effort, Police Squad, which later became Naked Gun, and of course, Hot Shots, and what I think is a very underrated Top Secret. And they even directed a normal comedy, Ruthless People.
Yep.
If
That
you-
was
if you
them?
call it a normal
Wow.
Yep.
comedy. So yeah, so I definitely enjoy this. I know it's juvenile, but I do enjoy this kind of humor, and it really is joyous. So I'm giving it the full 4 stars. I think it's a classic, and it really deserves. I think. What do you think, Mark? You have the Mr. and Mrs. Blow Up in your. This must have been right up your alley in 1980.
No, I was
No, he
5 in
was only
1980.
5.
But fast forward 10 years. So I got a couple things. Number one, I got more notes for this than I think I have for any other movie. I wrote really small, so I'm going to be squinting over here. Like Amy said, just fast forward 10 years, I was 15 in 1990, and this was like a go-to on me and my buddies in the Bronx, when we weren't drinking on the corner, we were getting a movie from Blockbuster and watching something in my buddy's basement.
Yeah,
And
I think too, Amy, same case for you. The VHS is what made you obsess over this movie. You watch it so
Well, I
many
mean, it
times.
came out in 80, and I don't think I got my first VHS probably in 84. So yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So for me, I enjoy this movie, but it has been a while since I've seen it. I will say that. I haven't
Yeah,
seen this in 10,
same.
15 years easily. So
Yeah.
I'll start with my nits. Too many cheesy puns and some offensive stuff. It did drop it a little bit of a quarter star for me, I would say. However, I had loved the disco flashback when I was 14 or 15. now when I watch it, all right, it's a little dumb, it's whatever, but him throwing her up in the air and catching her, that was comedy gold. We
brilliant.
would rewind that
Brilliant.
Do
7
you
times in a
know-
row.
But do you know he was recreating John Travolta's dance? Like this is a famous part of his dance.
Yeah, I know that now. As at 14 and 15, I did not know that. It was just funny physically.
Mhm.
Did any of you catch the fact that when she throws him and he winds up flipping around and landing and then he comes back out, that you can actually see Robert Hayes in the crowd that's there, so that when he and the stuntman do the switch, if you look very closely, he is
didn't
right
know that.
there. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And come on, the Girl Scouts having to brawl like they're sailors.
That was funny.
Oh my
That's
God.
funny. And to me, again, this is going back to 15-year-old me. The just the whole nun singing with the guitar scenes, constantly knocking out the oxygen and her dying. Again, didn't love it as much now, but as a kid, holy shit, that was hilarious.
I love how whatever that girl's name is, I don't know. Her big contribution was you perking her lips like whatever
Yeah.
she did. And that's all she kept doing.
And she became Captain Stubing's daughter, right? That was
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
she
I don't
was
know.
before Airplane.
I don't know if you guys realize this, but her mother in the movie was an actress who played Gavin McLeod's wife on the Mary
Joyce
Tyler Moore Show.
Bulifant, sure.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, so you're saying that she was her mother and Gavin McLeod's her father, but he just wasn't there.
Yeah, sure, something like that.
But yeah, Mark, when that movie came out, it was like, oh my God, it's Vicky Steuben.
Vicky Stevens.
So for me, now having said that, like those are my nits, which are not much. So I do enjoy ZAZ, Zucker Abrams Zucker. I did notice the basketball and what else was it? I'll get to it later. Just there's some similarities between this and the Kentucky Fried Movie, which I know very well because of the whole martial arts parody. But I had no memory of the Tupperware scene and the basketball scene with the tribe. I'd seen the movie a bunch of times, watched it this week. I didn't remember that at all. I never caught the Jewish joke before the Jewish sports legends pamphlet because you want like
A little
that was
pamphlet.
completely new. And I did laugh out loud at that. Oh my God. So then we got the Spanish seatbelt signs, TED stories making people kill themselves, lasagna. I take my coffee black, which that line, that one I've known, I've said that a bunch of times.
Well, that actually I saw online somewhere. They actually had a lot more scenes, those two kids, but they just cut it out of the movie.
Their entire conversation, word for word, with the exception of that last line, is lifted from another movie called Crash Landing that I think it was Nancy Reagan's last movie before she stopped acting. So,
But not
That's great.
I like coffee like I like my
no, I
man.
said that last
That's
line
the
is
last
not part of
line.
it, but the rest, the deleted, everything leading up to that's in the movie, and the rest of that scene that they chopped out of the movie is lifted directly from this other movie.
Funny.
So,
That's good trivia. The other, I mean, the things that the pilot said to the kid, obviously,
Right.
all those things just cracked me up. Here, I wrote it. Zucker really have a thing for Detroit jokes and basketball gags because they were both featured in Kentucky Fried Movie. There was a number of lines against Detroit in Kentucky Fried Movie. Only I think one here.
And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he actually at one point in the movie, I could see him like reading his line. He's like over here, going.
When he was yelling at the kid about the father, he was
Yeah.
totally. I was
Reading
like,
his
this
lines.
kid Joey is a better actor than Kareem.
That's great. One thing also for going back to my childhood, that dog scene at Robert Stack's house when he was attacking the guy, as a kid, even a teenager, because I had been chased by dogs when I was like 7 years old. And I even though I'm a big dog person now, I never had dogs and I didn't dislike them. I was just a little scared. That scene scared me. I remember that. And I watched it now as a 47-year-old and I'm like, it's a golden retriever. You could see that he's just basically jumping up to play. It was,
Oh my God.
Yeah,
but it's funny the difference you have when you're a kid versus
Right.
now.
Sure.
So
it was so dubbed.
2 words, Joe Isuzu.
Yeah, oh yeah, David Leisure, yeah.
Yeah, I saw him as the what do you call it? What was he?
Hare
He was
Krishna?
FedEx.
Hare Krishna.
FedEx guy.
and I was like, who is that guy? I had to look him up, and I was like, of course, it's Joe Isuzu. And what is it? Oh, I've actually walked into an upper management meeting at Louis Dreyfus and said, I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you. So I've definitely used that in real life. Probably shouldn't have.
Did they get
And-
the
oh.
reference?
I had to explain it, but when I did, they were like, of course, I know what you're talking about. This, Sheena, and a handful of other movies are why I missed the 80s for PG. Sheena,
Queen of the Jungle.
Tanya Roberts, fully naked, full frontal, PG. I watched that when I was like 10. It was fantastic. It was like, welcome puberty. And so going forward with that, this brings me to my last point. Frank
It was just so funny. It really was so funny because it was so ridiculous, out of place. This girl going by naked when everybody's screaming. And
it totally
it was just
unneeded.
ridiculous.
It was
And
ridiculous, absolutely.
and hysterical at the same time.
Ridiculous, like the Hindu guy exploding on the plane while not Robert Stack, but Leslie Nielsen's walking into the cockpit, just ignoring the explosion.
Exploding. But I just got to say that, now, Frank, then Annie, now Amy have contributed movies with boobs. And for all my talk, I feel like I failed everyone. I'm quite embarrassed and the next movie we have coming up too, no boobs. So I may have to revamp one of my movies and just put in like some hard R movie just to have boobs everywhere to make up for it. I'm not gonna. That's it. 3. I'm gonna go 3.5 stars.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yep.
And what you got? Is it getting darker there? Look at you're in a dark room now.
Hold on.
Oh goodness. Didn't it seem like it got darker all of a sudden? I could have a brain tumor. I don't know.
It's not the
You smell
tumor.
toast? It's not the tumor.
tumor. Yeah. So I actually watched this with my daughter Morgan, who's 24.
Had she seen it before?
Never,
Okay.
right? So I kind of forced her to
I just
watch
want to
it.
say you're a bad parent
Well, yeah.
if she's never seen it.
No, so I
Go on.
forced her to watch it with me. And she was doing homework on her laptop as she was watching. So I think she missed a lot of the visual stuff. She listened to it more, but she said it was okay. Some of it was really funny. And others, I guess, like you needed the reference. I think
I
a
was
lot
gonna
of it.
say, I think you need to get so much of it.
Yeah, you needed the reference for it. And, this was right up there with like Porky's and like that raunchy,
American Pie.
stupid humor kind of movie, which when you're a teenager, there's nothing better,
Same thing
and
with American Pie. I remember sitting in the movie theater and the audience is crying, they're laughing so much, and then seeing it a year later on TV and being like, okay, I guess.
Oh,
American
see, hold
Pie.
on. American Pie to me is like the next chapter. To me, like you have 70s and 80s raunchy bad movies. And then American Pie was 99, I think. So that to me was like a more modern era, even though that's now 23 years ago. And I love American Pie, probably because of my age at the time too. But I'll rewatch that tomorrow.
All right, we're sidetracking. Sorry.
Yeah,
Ann.
sorry.
yeah, no, and there's just so many quotable lines from it. I remember going like, "Stop calling me Shirley," all over the place, and it's just funny. It's did it hold up as well? I mean, like you guys said, some of it was just so over the top. There's, it becomes a little silly at this age, I think. But when you're watching it back then, it was just hysterical to watch.
I was
And
still
it was-
smiling the whole time. I don't think I actually laughed out loud, but I did a lot of smiling.
Yeah, and it was great. And I haven't seen it because I don't think it's been on television for a long, long, long time.
So I haven't seen it in a good 20 years.
Yeah, so can't drop the remote on it when I can't find it.
Annie, can I ask you, did Morgan find it offensive then, since she's a younger generation?
Wasn't
No,
really
she
paying
didn't find it
attention.
offensive. She didn't find it offensive. She thought some of it was funny, others not so much. I love the Blue Zone and the white zone and the
Oh
red
my
zone.
gosh.
You know,
How
like
many
right
times
from
have we done that bit?
Yeah.
Amy?
A
Right
Really?
real
from the
married couple.
beginning, right from the beginning, you had to be like listening just to
Yeah.
like the little minutia of the
Yeah.
movie, you know, to get everything. And it's a
And
lot
oh
of
my God,
fun.
and oh my God, Robert Stack going to the airport and being accosted by all these religious people and then just starting to punch them.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
doing his own stunts during that too. You know, that's him flipping people around, flipping over the back of one of the guys. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, he was in his 60s at that point. So
Yeah, I know that was a good move.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
go, boy.
You know, one of my favorite reoccurring ones was like, this is a bad week to quit smoking. There's a bad week
Love
to quit
Love it.
drinking, you know, like that was hysterical. That was so funny, you know, and I like the Jaws beginning.
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. Yeah, that-
Especially when you've never seen the movie before and they use
And
the
it-
music.
Yes,
Brilliant.
and it so
Yeah.
beautifully sets the tone. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fun to watch. I don't know if I would pick it up again. You know, maybe if it was somewhere as I'm flipping channels, maybe, but it's fun, but I don't know if I would watch it again, actually.
Where are
So,
you going? Where are you going?
I'm
Three.
going with a three
3.
stars,
Wow. All right, Joel.
which is low for me. I know.
Yeah. You like everything.
I know.
He's like Mikey.
Andy never gives 3
No,
stars. at
Mikey
all.
hated everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Mikey hated everything. I forgot. It's been so long and I'm getting senile at this point.
All right.
Um,
Joel, now
I,
this
I-
is formative years for you.
yeah, it's
How old
I-
were you in
I was-
1980?
In 1980, I was 11.
All right, that's
I was or
good.
10 or 11 when this came out because it came out, I think, earlier.
Mhm.
I think it came out before my birthday that year. so-
July 2nd.
Yeah, so that's before my birthday. So I would have been 10, but I probably didn't see it until around my birthday or after. So well, whatever. Anyway,
But you did see it in the movie theater.
I remember seeing it in the theaters. Not when it first opened. It was a few weeks later. Because I remember I was at camp and some of my friends were talking about it, and they were spoiling the movie in certain
Yes,
ways, and I was like,
Even
but
back then, you hated
Even
the
back
spoilers.
then.
yeah. I remember laughing hysterically when I saw it the first time. This is one of those movies, I don't know how many times I've seen it at this point in my life. There was a point where I could probably recite the movie verbatim without watching it. And that's gone. I think there's only 2 movies I can still do that with. But
I think if you watch it 1 or 2 times, you can refresh right.
well, here's the funny part. I actually, for this viewing, I sat down and really immersed myself in it, which is why I've seen 0 Hour before, but I hadn't seen it right before watching Airplane. And then I watched the movie again. The Blu-ray has a couple of different types of tracks. There's an audio commentary by Abrams and the Zucker brothers. There's a trivia track. There's what they call the long haul edition, where the movie is broken up by interviews and deleted scenes and other things. And so I wound up
Really?
watching the movie
Yeah.
3 times in a row this weekend after watching
Wow.
0 Hour. I loved it every time. Just even with their stories and stuff about making the movie and that.
Yeah, this must have been a torturous movie to make, because how do you not laugh? How do you not laugh? I would have never gotten a good take from me. That's for sure.
Well, they didn't have a choice. The movie cost $3.5 million to make, but they had never, other than the Kentucky Fried Movie, they had never made a big studio picture before. They didn't even know what a second unit was. So they're
Yeah.
going out themselves and shooting, all the crap shots at the airport that you'd send somebody else to do.
Yes, but that's how vested they were. They wanted
Well,
to be
no,
in
of
every
course.
aspect of it.
They had 0 Hour, that videotape that they had recorded 0 Hour on years before was with them on set. You can tell if you watch the movie, there are shots in 0 Hour that are recreated almost exactly as they are.
So they're
in
actually
Airplane.
Mystery Science Theater before Mystery Science Theater.
Essentially, they wound up buying the rights to Zero Hour because they didn't want to step on anybody's legal toes.
Right.
They
And they were
wound
at
up,
Paramount, and that was Paramount, so it should have been.
well, it was
Mhm.
Paramount and Warner Brothers, so there was a little bit of wrangling in there with who actually had the rights to deal with, but they got it. And literally, if you watch Zero Hour, it's hard to watch at this point if you know Airplane, because the dialogue is lifted almost verbatim in scenes, and then there's this one twist.
amazing.
The amount of times that somebody says good luck to Ted Stryker in Zero Hour, and you're waiting for that,
In
Well,
Airplane.
we're all counting on you, that comes after it, and it never comes. Or when I forget the character's name, but it's the Lloyd Bridges character in Zero Hour. Literally, I picked the wrong week to quit smoking. He
He
says
says
it.
that? Oh,
He
that's
says
great.
that. But the
That's great.
best line from Zero Hour that they just yanked out of it is the whole thing where the doctor says, they need to find someone who can not only land the plane but didn't eat the fish. And it's
That's great.
a ridiculous line in a movie that was supposed to be serious.
But
You know.
it's a great example of how the tone of a drama as opposed to comedy. I mean, and
Yeah.
even using the same words.
With the same
Yeah.
words, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And the fact that
I
they
mean, but
got
showing the plate with the fish and just the bones. Or the,
yeah yes.
Or when
Kinda
the
funny.
stewardess says, when the wife says, oh, he had the fish. No, nothing's wrong. It was great.
And one of the other things I love in Zero Hour, the co-pilot was actually a football player,
Right.
an
Ah,
actor.
Right.
So
That's why.
obviously, originally the part was written for Pete Rose, not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But since they were shooting during the summer, Pete Rose was not available to them. So
well, he was busy making bets on the side.
right, exactly. They make a joke about that in the commentary. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they offered him $30,000 to do the movie. He asked for 35 because he wanted to buy an Oriental rug that cost $35,000, and that's what they gave him.
That's funny.
And I think his part in that film is hysterical. The fact that he denies who he is until that
That's
one
very
moment,
funny.
and then
That is
blows
very
up with
funny.
the kid.
That's very funny.
I think the movie, you can tell that these people were having fun making this movie, as much of a low budget studio film it was at the time. And I think
Amy, why do you keep licking your breasts?
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
Because in my head, I keep imagining the steward, Julie Haggerty blowing up the.
Oh, that's what she was doing. Yes.
That's what I'm doing.
And that's all we saw. I hope I'm not.
Oh.
All right. This is all I
she's not
kept
licking
saying.
her breast. She's licking her. Never mind.
I'm kissing my
Yes,
pussy.
Joel, I almost said it, but I decided to be nice.
She's kissing
I
her
just said it.
pussy. She's
Yeah.
kissing her pussy. All right.
Um.
Joel,
Anyway, it's
anybody who watches the 0 Hour and then Airplane 3 times.
You're my hero.
I had a blast.
All right.
And I'm also a bad parent because I asked Malcolm, I've tried to get Malcolm to watch this movie I've given up on Duncan. Duncan only watches certain things. I've kind of given up on Malcolm too at this point. He'll wander in and out if I'm watching something in the home theater, and that's about it.
This is what computers have done to our children. They have no attention span.
Exactly.
Well, not, I
Natasha
don't have
sat
any
with me-
children, so your children.
Well, no, but it's true. Natasha sat with me for one of the viewings, and it's funny. I'm still picking up on things. I've seen it a bazillion times.
I
And
think Natasha would have liked it even better if the gay guy would have thrown glitter.
Right. I
He
never
could have
noticed
too.
when Peter Graves, when we first see him and he's picking up magazines off the magazine rack, I never noticed the sign there that said whacking material.
Oh yeah.
Neither did I.
I was
Neither
like,
did I.
And you can see there's additional boobs in there too on some of the
Yeah, right.
magazines.
Or the fact that when he picks up the phone, and it repeats saying, hey, and you can
The
hear
white phone.
Yeah, but you can hear somebody laughing, who's not behind the scenes. They left it in,
I didn't catch that.
That I didn't hear either.
There's
I
not
said
a-
the white phone.
Yeah, I got it.
I'll take ham on white, hold the mayo.
Mayo.
Brilliant.
Yes,
It's
yes.
an obvious dumb joke, but it's funny.
Oh my gosh.
I know there's a few things that listening to the Zucker brothers and Abrams talk about.
Yes,
they-
tell us about that. Since you listened to it.
It's a fun commentary to listen to, because they're kind of like, nobody wants to hear any of this crap, and the stuff that we have to tell is going to last 20 minutes, and then you're going to be listening to this movie in silence for the rest of it, which was
I
not
think
entirely
I've
true.
seen this actually. Now, this sounds very familiar.
They had some great stories to tell about the making of the film, and they're funny. They're funny guys. I mean, the whole bit with when they wrote the script and they wrote the jive dialogue, they're like, we're three white guys from Milwaukee, white Jewish guys from Milwaukee. All we wrote was like mofo, show, modo, but and Al, oh, I can't remember the two actresses, Norm and Al. I can't remember their last names right now, came in and auditioned, and they apologized to them for the dialogue they wrote. The two guys went back, rewrote all the dialogue, and what you're hearing in the film is what they came up with.
That's great.
And then they taught Barbara Billingsley how to speak it properly. So, because there's a rhythm and a cadence to it, and she's speaking it like she's Beaver's mother,
Again, a brilliant stroke of
Yeah.
casting. Good Lord.
Yeah.
exactly. Or
But
things like
that would I think would be lost on anybody now too.
of course,
They
because
would
nobody
not
wants-
know who she is. Yeah.
No, but it's still funny in and of itself that you have this older white woman who can speak
Right.
live.
Right.
But it's, if you can ever get your hands on a copy of it, it's worth listening to.
Next time we come to your house, Joel.
There you go. I would sit through it again. It's funny. And that's one of the reasons I was able to do this. It's because it's a funny film and they are funny guys. It made it that much easier. There is a connection, by the way, since this whole thing started because of the MCU. There's an actor in this film that is in the MCU.
Who is that, Joel?
Jim, the husband who drinks the second cup of coffee and then gets sick on the fish and vomits,
Right.
is Baron Zemo's butler, who yeah, I didn't realize.
Oh, okay. In the show, in the TV show.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's Baron Zemo's butler.
Oh my
who-
God, how
who
funny.
repeated a couple of scenes. I was like, really? Oh yeah, that makes sense, because he's like 40 years older now. So
Well,
um,
do all of our Breaking Bad fans, did you all
Right.
notice Jonathan Banks? Jonathan
I-
Banks checks the radar range
yeah.
and then he pulls the laundry out.
Well,
And he
he's
said something like, "What an ass" or something like that. He's got an attitude in
he's
it too.
all,
Yeah.
he's all over the place. He's up to 1,300 feet. He's down to 950 feet.
What an asshole.
Yeah.
An asshole.
But he's
And the
got
other thing you
hair and
asked-
you would never know it was him. But during Breaking Bad, of course, I'm one of those people who you're watching a show. I got to look everybody up on Wiki.
Right.
And then I was like, oh my God, Jonathan Banks was an airplane and his scenes
That's
are
funny.
on YouTube.
That's funny. Hi, Joel. Where
Right.
you're landing? 3.1.
I'm gonna land between Frank and Mark at a good 3 3/4, 3.75. It's a funny film. It's very repeatable. It's not perfect. There's some jokes that just never landed for me, and they even admit some of them in the commentary.
Yeah, but when you have 400 jokes in 10 minutes,
Yeah. yeah,
some are not going to work. And I
Yeah.
think also it's kind of like you don't necessarily know what's going to play. So I wonder how
Yeah.
much previewing they did and editing from that.
They according to them, they took it to a number of places, and if the joke is in the film, it worked at one point, but
Right.
there's 3 jokes they talk about in the film that nobody ever laughs at, but they left them in.
Which
Right.
is
The spear hitting the wall, the watermelon landing on the desk,
I didn't
the-
get that.
and the
Yeah.
bit where Robert Stack's smoking the cigarette and he throws it out the window and Lloyd Bridges covers his ears and there's the big explosion outside. They said nobody ever laughed at those 3 jokes. So I was like,
The last one I got.
yeah.
did
The
you,
last
but
one's
did you laugh?
Maybe.
Maybe.
All right, Aim, I hope you're with me on the 4-star review.
Well, first let me say one other thing that I mentioned to you guys last week, but not on video, so I'll tell our viewing audience that my all-time movie line from any movie comes from this movie, which is the point counterpoint when he says, Shayna, they bought their tickets. They knew what they were in for. I say, let them crash. To me, that line is just perfect, 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 perfect.
Brilliant.
The line that I heard, I think, or got last night for the very first time when Robert Stack, the brilliant Robert Stack, they're telling them to light up the runway. The plane is coming in, put all the lamps on the runway and all. I don't even remember a dump truck dumping a bunch of lamps on the runway. But the line that I never heard or realized before was right after the lamps, somebody else said, put 1,000 lamps or light up the run, whatever it was. And Robert Stack, all of a sudden, they're all trying to help. And he goes, that's what they're going to be expecting.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant line. That's what they're going to, so he's not going to help them because that's what they're fucking expecting. Brilliant.
One more bit of trivia, just since we're talking about Robert Stack real quick. They actually wrote the part with him in mind back in the mid-70s when they started doing the screenplay, but they wrote it in such a way where they wanted him to be talking like he used to on The Untouchables. And when they got him to agree to do the movie, he wasn't doing it the way they expected him to do it. So they actually had to show him an impression of Robert Stack as done by John Biner.
From The Untouchables.
Yeah, to get him to understand how they wanted him to do the bits.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, it worked because I
Yeah.
would give him him and Lloyd Bridges, give him an Oscar.
Yeah.
There was one other joke or comment that I wanted to say, but now it goes out of my head. So I am going to give it 4 stars for the nostalgia. There are jokes that I don't think are funny and I never thought were funny, but as a whole, the 10 jokes for every 1 joke that I've never laughed at, it deserves 4 stars. It deserves 4 stars in 1980. I don't know that I could really watch it again. Again, I know every line. As soon as he went, what a pisser. I was like, now he's going to say, what a pisser. Now she's going to say, by the way, is there anyone on board who knows how to fly a plane? Knew all the lines. So it's hard to give it an honest 4 stars because I was like this through a lot of the movie. But I think it does deserve it. It deserves it from 1980. So I have to go with it.
And I definitely think when you talk about influential, I mean, it really was. So from that standpoint as well. All right. Are we done? Everybody good?
You
All
wanna
right.
talk
So
about the sequel?
I say what?
Oh, the sequel. I saw it.
Oh, yeah. I
only saw that
don't know.
once.
Yeah, I think I've only seen it once too.
I just remember William Shatner with the periscope and resting his arms on it and saying something funny. That's like all I remember from it.
I remember there are boobs in the airport when they're looking at the X-ray machine. They show boobs. That's the only thing I remember from that damn sequel.
The only funny part in the sequel to me, and the sequel's not funny, and Abrams and the Zucker brothers claim they've never seen it.
Yeah.
And since it was because they had nothing to do with it.
Oh.
They also claim to have never seen From Here to Eternity, even though that bit in the movie,
Right,
sure.
But
seems like-
even if you haven't seen From Here to Eternity, that clip shows up everywhere.
I've
Yeah.
never seen it and I knew it was from there.
Exactly. Same here.
My favorite bit in Airplane 2, and it's the only funny bit to me, is when they're in the courtroom and they're talking about the whole war story about Buddy never had it, or Buddy lost it. Oh, Buddy lost it. No, Andy lost it. Buddy was a rock, or I don't remember the specifics. It's a funny thing where they're using the but he or Buddy and he,
Oh, I
Andy,
see.
kind of thing. Are you over Macho
And your
Grande? No,
delivery
I
was
don't.
perfect, Joe.
Macho Grande.
Yeah, it's terrible. I know that. I was going to watch the sequel and I didn't. So
Very
Anyway.
similar, I guess, to Over, Roger,
yes,
Right.
exactly.
Victor.
Yeah.
And that's I cut that out, but I was gonna say it was a big build up from one little joke, which I did remember that joke, but it's in between funny and not funny, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many long leads to a punchline.
Yeah.
It's just funny. All right, so next Monday we are back to one of Joel's selection, Flash Gordon, not Flash Gordon, Mark, Flash Gordon. From 1980. It's not available to stream, but if you want to watch it, you can rent it or go to the library and get it, as always. I'm Frank Gaffney. Watch a movie.
And also with you.
Oh my goodness, it took you so long.